Welcome. I'm here to talk today about how to look for a good teacher. So I hear this from my clients a lot. People will pay maybe a little bit, a lot for a teacher and then not be satisfied with the outcomes. So how exactly do you go about looking for somebody that's going to get you where you need to go with your language goals? Pretty simple. There are about 5 things that I want you to start looking out for. Now, the first one that you want to look out for is someone that has a plan. So you shouldn't enter in your classes and not have a plan. The person should have a plan for every day. You should be covering certain topics every day and every week, and it should have a plan for how it's building into your overall fluency. If there is no plan, if you're just writing through a book, if there doesn't seem to be a sequence and a build-up, and it just tends to be an awkward, long conversation, then that's not having a plan. And you definitely want somebody that has a plan. The second thing you want to look for is evaluations. You don't need to be bored in your class. You don't need to be intimidated by the evaluations. In fact, a really good teacher can do an evaluation in an effective and a non-threatening way. And you need to find a good teacher that can do that, because if you're not getting assessed, you don't know what you're learning, and you don't know what you're missing, and you don't know what to build on in the future. And a good teacher will use that as the basis of building up your plan so that you get, to bring it back to the first point, you get where you're trying to go with your language goals. Now, the third thing that you want to look for is input. And this is actually really not the third one. This is the most important point, maybe. All of these things that the teacher is forming for you, your plan, your assessments or evaluations, you should have the biggest voice in this. They should be asking you what your goals are. They should be asking you where you're going to use the language, how you're going to use the language, work, socializing, what kind of socializing, what are your hobbies, what are your interests, what's the vocabulary that you typically use. If a teacher is not doing this, they're not customizing the lessons for you. You're not going to get the most out of it and be able to use your fluency for what you need it for. And that's what's really important when you're paying for the class. You want a teacher that's going to tailor this process to you, because it is very individual, both in terms of goals and in terms of needs that people have when they're taking lessons. Now, the other thing that I want you to think about is the experience that your teacher has. You don't necessarily need somebody that has a certificate. That doesn't always mean that you're getting the best teacher. There are a lot of certificates that are really cheap online that don't necessarily give you experience for what you need to deal and answer with people's questions and troubleshoot in the classroom. However, experience does. An experienced teacher is able to flip a switch when you don't understand something and come up with a couple different explanations. It's just natural, because this is what we do as teachers, and over time you build a toolbox of problem-solving equipment, so to speak, and different methodologies that you use, different strategies. And so without boring you with all the teacher technicalities, know that you definitely want a teacher who is not on their first day in the class when you're learning language. You definitely want somebody that has a bit of experience and really has worked productively with their clients to get them where they want to go. And the last thing I would say is the activities. Look at the type of activities that you're doing in class. If you're just opening a book when you come into class, that's not appropriate. In fact, actually, that means probably your teacher hasn't planned very much. If your teacher can't answer questions that stray off of the activities and off of what's presented in the book, also that probably goes back to not having a whole lot of experience. An experienced teacher should be planning activities that are very specific to what you want to learn. And I'll give you an example. If you are moving to Costa Rica and you are building a house, then your teacher should be going over vocabulary that has to do with hardware stores, for example, if that's where you're going to get a lot of your supplies. That is an example of an activity that's very specific and very productive for you. You shouldn't just be doing random exercises for hours. You can do that at home out of a notebook. That's not appropriate. You should be doing things that are both varied, that have a bunch of different senses involved, and that more importantly focus in and hone in on what you want to learn and how you're going to use the language. Be proactive. Think about what you're paying for and if it really is giving you the best value. Language learning is amazing and it opens all sorts of doors for you, but it can also be very frustrating if you're not working with the right individual. So I definitely would encourage you to think about this. This is your class. This is your path. This is your language learning. Take charge.